At just 32 years old, Josh McCoy is already working on his second dream job.
I went to school and went to college to be an accountant, so I got a job with a business here in Dothan, and once I got on with them for a while, I got asked to move to Birmingham, and I did that for a couple months, and I realized really quick that that was not where I wanted to be.
About that same time, Josh's father-in-law, Chris Thompson, was expanding his farm and looking for some help.
We talked about it for probably a year or so before we made that decision. And so when we came back, it just it's worked perfect ever since. And, you know, people talk about it all the time, but when you say you're happy to get up in the mornings and go to work, I mean, it does make a difference.
Josh grew up on a farm, but growing nearly 10,000 acres of cotton and peanuts and running a peanut buying point and shelling plant required a pretty steep learning curve.
It is something all the time from, you know, irrigation all summer. You know, when it cuts off at 3 o'clock, you got to be there at 3 o'clock in the morning to cut it off. Once it's your money on the line, you start wondering what could happen if you didn't do that extra step.
Josh says he's fortunate that his wife grew up on the farm because she understands it's certainly not a 9-to-5 job.
There's a lot of life lessons that we've learned through farming. It hasn't been the easy road for sure. When his hours in accounting were much easier, you know, I think that faith and farming for sure go hand in hand. And, you know, as a row crop farmer, you put that seed in the ground and you do your best to, you know, to do what you can and to use the best practices and to cultivate it. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's left up to the elements and the weather and things that you can't control.
Savannah says those are the kinds of lessons she wants her sons, Fields and Sutton, and the little boy they're expecting in November to learn. As a teacher at the Alabama Virtual Academy, she also stresses the importance of a good work ethic to her students.
A 4-year degree is wonderful, but we need a lot more people in the workforce, you know. These trade skills are so important. The mechanics, truck drivers, welders, all of those things are what help keep our operation running. And so I try to really encourage my students, you know, if they have an interest in that.
Josh says much of the success that Thompson Farms has enjoyed is due to the long hours and hard work put in by Savannah's dad. Now that most of the day-to-day operations have been turned over to him, Josh says he feels a tremendous responsibility.
Now we've got to keep this going. You know, what he's built and what we've built together, and her two brothers also. You know, it's ours, and now we've got to grow it.
From Dale County, outstanding young farm family finalists Josh and Savannah McCoy and their sons Fields and Sutton. Brady Peak knew from a young age that he would become a farmer.
I remember in school I brought home just trees that they'd give us, and I planted them in the yard, and I remember strawberry plants that they'd give us at school. So I always was bringing stuff home, trying to grow it. And I've always liked working on things. I've always, you know, as a kid, I mean, I would work on my bicycle just for the fun of it. And so this, you know, farming for me is just the opportunity to kind of combine all that together. You know, to be able to grow things, to be able to, you know, operate equipment, be able to work on things.
But when his family got out of agriculture before he was old enough to take over the operation, it forced him to look at other possibilities.
I had job shadowed lawyers and bankers and engineers and different things, and I'd not really found anything that I wanted to do, but the desire to farm was still there. And so I talked with my dad and about how I wanted to farm, and so he helped me, and he rented me some land that he owned, and that's where I got my start at when I was 16 years old, was farming 100 acres of soybeans.
10 years later, Brady's growing corn, cotton, soybeans, and wheat on about 1,600 acres in Limestone and Lauderdale counties. Urban development is a challenge for farmers across the Tennessee Valley, but Brady and his wife Anna are trying to turn that into an opportunity.
We currently have Anna's sweet corn patch. We grow about 2 acres of sweet corn and sell it to local supermarkets and at farmers markets and just to people in the community. And in the future, we would like to do like a U-pick strawberry and blueberries, and also maybe do kind of along with the U-Pick, do a U-Pick pumpkin patch also.
When she and Brady started dating, Anna says she knew nothing about agriculture. She learned a lot from her husband, and as a teacher, she and her students learned a lot from ag in the classroom.
We started hatching chickens, and those kids, it was like Christmas Day when all 6 chickens hatched. We kept them in our classroom for probably a week, and 6 students got to take home a chick. And I saw one of my past students this year, and she came up to me and said, my chicken Cotton, we named it Cotton, laid an egg. And so it was just really cool to see how excited they were and that they still have the chicks.
From acquiring land to buying equipment and the constant challenges presented by the weather, Brady says farming has been difficult at times, but it's also been extremely rewarding.
It's been tough, but it's been fun to really, see this thing from the ground up. We're doing it the way that I want to do it. It's fun. And though there are hard days, it's just, every day we have a new challenge. But just kind of once you ever kind of get it in you, it's hard to get it out.
Outstanding Young Farm Family finalists Brady and Anna Peak of Limestone County. Growing up working cattle with his parents and grandparents just south of Montgomery, Mitchell Henry always knew his future was in agriculture. But the farm he operates today is about 200 miles north of the one he grew up on.
My mom grew up here on this farm, and so I would come up here in the summers, whenever I was in high school, and my granddad came to me when I was about 16 years old, and he just said, if you want this place, it's yours to have.
After buying and selling calves through high school, Mitchell started running Hardin Farms in Lawrence County after he graduated from Auburn with an animal science degree in 2016. Together, Mitchell and his grandfather are producing about 1,000 stockers a year.
Just being around cattle, being around animals is something that I've always had a passion for, and I'm just really glad that I had the opportunity to move here and walk right into a very, very good operation that my granddad already had going. And it hasn't always been a stocker backgrounding operation. Before that, it was a dairy farm, it was a pig farm, chicken farm, a little bit of everything.
Mitchell says his great-granddad started the operation around 1939. Over the past 5 years, he's worked to modernize some of the farm's equipment and procedures.
Some of the fencing and some of the working facilities. Probably the biggest thing has been getting back into the cow-calf operation, because my grandfather sold out of the cow-calf operation several years ago, and so now I'm trying to get back into it.
Like her husband, Rebecca Henry grew up on her family's farm in Madison County, but she decided to follow in her mom's footsteps and become a pharmacist. Although she helps with feeding and working cattle, Rebecca's found her calling in telling the story of agriculture through social media. Through her pages, Rebecca says she met other farm wives from across the country online, and they've shared ideas. But the pandemic showed them the real power of social media.
Mitchell set aside a few calves to sell for freezer beef. And so I was able to use my Facebook page to promote our freezer beef, and that just boomed. We sold 10 calves within 2 days.
Mitchell says his wife has made a name for herself throughout Lawrence County. And it's the farming lifestyle that she shares with people on the internet that's rewarding about this line of work.
I just love being outside. I love being in God's creation. I never saw myself being one to sit down at a desk job. I would rather get up and throw on boots and be around the cattle, and they can be frustrating many days, but I think at the end of the day, it's just very rewarding to work with your hands and see things get accomplished outside.
Outstanding Young Farm Family finalists Mitchell and Rebecca Henry of Lawrence County.